Hi, my name is Daniel Collins. I'm 36 years old from Denver, Colorado, and tonight I want to share something with you that completely changed the way I see life, death, and everything in between. It's not easy for me to talk about, but I feel like I have to. Maybe because deep down, I know there's someone out there who needs to hear this. It all started on a winter evening in 2019. I was driving home after a long shift at work, exhausted, with snow falling heavier than the forecast had warned. The roads were slick, the air was sharp, and visibility was dropping by the minute. I kept telling myself, just 10 more minutes and you'll be home. But as I rounded a curve on the highway, I saw headlights coming straight at me. A driver had lost control, sliding into my lane. Everything slowed down in that moment. My hands tightened on the wheel, my breath caught, and I remember whispering a half prayer, half thought, "Please, not like this." The crash was brutal, metal folding like paper, glass shattering in a storm of sparks and ice. The impact threw my body forward, the airbag exploding against my chest. But what I remember most wasn't the sound. It was the silence that followed. A silence deeper than anything I'd ever known. When the paramedics arrived, I was drifting in and out. I remember the taste of blood, the sting of cold air, and their voices shouting things I couldn't process. They cut the door open, pulled me out, and I caught glimpses of flashing red and blue lights, snow turning pink against the asphalt. I heard someone say, "We're losing him." And even though they were talking about me, it felt strangely distant, like they were describing a stranger. In the ambulance, I could feel my body shutting down. My chest was heavy, each breath like fire, and then suddenly, nothing, no pain, no fear, no sound. I didn't even realize the exact moment my heart stopped beating. I just knew I was no longer inside the chaos. I wasn't in the ambulance anymore. I was outside of it, above it, watching everything as if it were a scene playing out on a dimmed screen. At first, I thought I was hallucinating from shock, but then I noticed something. I wasn't confused. My thoughts were clearer than ever. I could see details I shouldn't have been able to. The snowflakes resting on the roof of the ambulance, the way the paramedic's hands trembled as he pressed on my chest, the tears in the eyes of the young nurse sitting beside me. And yet, none of it scared me. Instead, I felt an overwhelming calm, as if a soft hand had rested on my soul and whispered, "It's okay now." The noise of the world faded completely, and I found myself standing in what I can only describe as a vast, endless, dark space. It wasn't frightening. It was peaceful still and strangely familiar, like I had been there before, maybe long before this life. I couldn't see walls or ground, but I wasn't floating aimlessly either. I was simply there, surrounded by silence that felt alive, humming with something greater than me. But soon, I noticed a pull. Ahead of me stretched what looked like a tunnel, though not made of stone or light, more like a passage woven from pure stillness. At the far end, I sensed a glow, faint but undeniable, calling me forward. And as I focused on it, I felt a warmth rising inside me, a love so deep that it made every earthly worry vanish like smoke. I hesitated for a moment, thinking, is this it? Is this death? The strange part was, I wasn't afraid. The question wasn't about fear, it was about surrender, a realization that I had reached the edge of something infinite, and the choice was no longer mine to control. For the first time in my life, I wasn't struggling. I was simply letting go. As I took that first step toward the glow, I felt my body, the broken, bleeding body left behind in the ambulance, slip further away. The weight of pain dissolved, the noise of machines and voices fell silent, and in its place came a peace that no words in our language can fully capture. And in that moment, standing on the threshold of eternity, I knew my life, as I had known it, was over. But something far greater was only just beginning. As I stepped forward into that silence, the faint glow at the end of the tunnel grew brighter, and with every moment it seemed to pulse in rhythm with something inside me. It wasn't just light, it was alive. and somehow it was aware of me. The more I moved toward it, the more I felt drawn, not by force, but by love. It was like gravity for the soul. The tunnel itself seemed endless, yet distance had no meaning here. I could see behind me and ahead of me at the same time, as if vision was no longer limited to two eyes. I noticed that even in the darkness, there was no fear. It felt more like being wrapped in a blanket after a long winter night. And then, suddenly, the darkness gave way to brilliance. What I saw before me was a light so pure, so radiant, that calling it light doesn't do it justice. It wasn't shining on me, it was shining through me. It filled every corner of my being, erasing every trace of sorrow, regret, and doubt. It was as if I had been carrying invisible chains my whole life, and in that instant, they all shattered. The light pulsed with love. Not the kind of love we talk about casually in everyday life, but love that is the very substance of existence. It was unconditional, endless, and it knew me completely. Imagine the greatest moment of kindness you've ever received, then multiply it by infinity. That was what was pouring into me, wave after wave, until I thought I would burst. I didn't just feel this love. I remembered it. Somewhere deep in my soul, I realized I had known this presence before, long before my life on Earth. It was like recognizing the face of a parent you haven't seen since birth, only to discover that they've loved you every single moment you've existed. Tears, or what felt like tears, welled up inside me, but they weren't of sadness. They were of homecoming. As I surrendered to that embrace, I noticed that I wasn't standing alone anymore. Shapes began to emerge from the radiance, figures shimmering with the same love that flowed from the light itself. They didn't speak with words, but I understood them perfectly. Their presence was comforting, familiar, as though they had always been beside me, even when I couldn't see them. I don't know how to explain it, but I knew these beings loved me without condition. Some felt like family, even though I couldn't recognize faces in the way we do on Earth. Others felt like friends of my soul, companions who had been walking with me silently through every step of my life. They welcomed me, not with ceremony, but with the kind of joy you feel when someone you've been waiting for finally comes home. Yet even among them, the light itself was greater, so much greater that everything else seemed to bow before it. And then I realized, this wasn't just a light. This was the source, the origin of love, the heart of God, though I didn't need to label it to know it. Every fiber of my being whispered, this is where you came from. This is where you belong. In that moment, I longed to merge with it completely, to lose myself in the ocean of love forever. And as soon as I had that thought, I was there, inside the light itself. There was no movement, no transition, just the instant fulfillment of desire. I was surrounded, embraced, consumed by warmth and compassion so boundless that it felt like eternity itself. And then came a voice, not with sound, not in English, but directly into the essence of who I was. It wasn't thunderous, nor was it small. It was gentle and infinite all at once. And it said, you are loved. You always have been. You always will be. Those words, or rather that truth, echoed through me, healing wounds I didn't even know I had carried. And in that moment I thought, if this is eternity, I never want to leave. Inside that light, time no longer existed. Everything that had ever happened in my life, every choice I'd made, every word I'd spoken, it all surrounded me at once. It wasn't overwhelming. It was as if the story of my entire existence had been written in threads of light, and I was finally able to see the whole tapestry. And I knew this was my life review. But it wasn't like watching a movie. It was feeling it. Every moment replayed not only through my own eyes, but through the hearts of those I had touched. When I saw myself being kind, I felt the warmth it brought to others. When I saw myself acting in anger or selfishness, I felt the sting of their pain as if it were my own. There was no hiding, no excuses, only truth. At first I wanted to look away. The mistakes, the moments I justified to myself, the people I had hurt without realizing, I saw it all. But the astonishing thing was, there was no condemnation. The light didn't shame me. Instead, it surrounded me with understanding, as though saying, yes, this is what you did. And yet, you are still loved beyond measure. The deeper I looked, the more I realized how connected we all are. Every smile, every harsh word, every act of generosity or neglect, it rippled far beyond what I had ever imagined. A kind gesture to a stranger might have softened their heart enough to change their entire day. A careless word might have planted seeds of doubt that echoed for years. My life was not isolated. It was part of a vast web of souls. And then, out of the brilliance, a presence emerged. More radiant than the others, more complete than any being I had ever imagined. My soul knew instantly, this was the source of all love. Some might call him God, others Jesus, others by names across cultures. But labels felt too small. This was love itself, standing before me, more personal than anything I had ever known. I wanted to fall on my knees, yet I had no body to kneel with. Instead, my soul simply bowed. And then the presence spoke, not with lips, but with truth woven into every fiber of me. You are my child. You were created for love, to receive it and to give it. The words weren't heard, they were remembered, as though I had always known them, but had forgotten until now. This presence didn't scold me for my failures. Instead, it showed me how every lesson, every hardship, even my darkest choices could be transformed into understanding and compassion. The message was clear. Life wasn't about perfection, it was about love. Every opportunity to love was a chance to align with the source. And every time I chose otherwise, I strayed from who I truly was. I asked silently, why me? Why show me this? And the answer was immediate, tender, and overwhelming. Because you asked, because you are ready, and because your journey is not finished. The weight of those words settled into me, filling me with both awe and reluctance. I didn't want to leave this place. I wanted to stay forever in the embrace of love, so complete that nothing else mattered. But the presence continued, teaching me truths that felt older than the universe itself. Pray not only with words, but with the way you live. Suffer not in bitterness, but with courage, for even suffering can shine light into the world. And above all, share this love, not just with those who agree with you, but with everyone. Because my love is for all. Each phrase wasn't just instruction, it was a seed planted deep within me. I realized then that this wasn't the end of my story. It was a beginning. The presence radiated both sorrow and joy, as if saying goodbye, yet never truly letting go. And in that moment, I knew I would have to return, not because I wanted to, but because love demanded it. My life on earth wasn't complete. There was still more to give, more to learn, more to love. When the presence told me my journey wasn't over, I felt a wave of resistance rise inside me. How could I possibly return, I thought. Here there was only peace, only love, only truth. To go back meant pain, struggle, and uncertainty. I wanted to argue, to beg to stay, but even in my reluctance I felt the kindness of that infinite voice. You will understand one day, trust me. I looked back toward the tunnel, and for the first time since arriving, I felt something like gravity pulling me away from the light. The beings who had welcomed me remained, watching, their forms shimmering with compassion. I felt them silently telling me, you are not alone, we will still be with you. It was bittersweet, like leaving home after a long embrace, knowing you must go but never wanting to. The tunnel reappeared before me, stretching farther than I could bear to face. Yet the return was not slow. Just as I had arrived in an instant when I desired the light, now I was moving back with the same immediacy. Only this time, the motion wasn't filled with joy. It was heavy, reluctant, as though each step carried me farther from paradise. As I neared the edge of the tunnel, I saw something strange, my own body lying broken on a hospital bed. Doctors and nurses swarmed around it, voices urgent, hands pressing, machines wailing. It looked lifeless, pale, almost unrecognizable. For a brief moment I hesitated. Is that really me? Do I want to go back to that shell? The answer from within the light whispered gently, yes, it is still your vessel. It still has purpose. I hovered above the scene, watching as if I were both participant and observer. I saw the desperation in the doctor's eyes as he shouted orders, the determination in the nurse's hands as she pressed against my chest. I saw the tears in a young medical student's eyes as she silently prayed for me. And for the first time, I realized how much love was still tethering me to earth. Love expressed through their fight to keep me alive. Then came the moment. It was as if the thread connecting my soul to that body snapped tight, pulling me downward. There was no gentle merging, only a jolt, like being dropped from a great height into ice water. My chest burned, my lungs screamed, and pain, raw, unbearable pain, flooded back into me. I gasped as air tore into my body, and the first thing I heard was someone shouting, "We've got him back!" Opening my eyes felt impossible. My body was strapped down, tubes and wires everywhere, but in that haze of pain and confusion, I forced myself to focus. The fluorescent lights above me buzzed harshly, nothing like the brilliance I had just left. For a moment I panicked. Was it all a dream? Did I imagine it? But deep in my soul I knew the truth. I had been there. I had touched eternity. The medical team leaned over me, their faces a mixture of relief and disbelief. One doctor leaned close and said, "You died. Your heart stopped for almost 12 minutes, but somehow you're back." His words confirmed what I already knew, but hearing them out loud made it undeniable. I had crossed over, and now, for reasons I didn't yet understand, I had returned. I wanted to tell them everything, the light, the love, the voice that spoke truth into my soul. But my mouth was dry, my throat raw, and all that came out was a whisper. Did I really die? The doctor looked at me, nodded slowly and said, "Yes, but you're here now." And though my body trembled from pain, my spirit was filled with gratitude. I had been sent back, and with that came responsibility. Lying there in the ICU, I realized how fragile life truly is. One moment you're driving home, the next you're standing at the edge of eternity. And yet, even in that fragility, there is a strength beyond anything we can imagine. A strength born not of fear, but of love. The same love I had felt in the light. And I knew then, every breath from this point forward had to mean something. The days after waking were some of the hardest of my life. My body was shattered, every breath a battle, every movement a reminder of the accident. But strangely, none of it crushed me. The pain was real, yet it was held in the arms of something greater. I had tasted eternity, and that memory gave me strength. Each groan of my body became almost a prayer. You sent me back. Don't let me waste it. In the hospital, I replayed everything I had seen. The tunnel, the light, the beings, the presence that knew me better than I knew myself. Most of all, I carried the lessons etched into my soul. Live as a prayer, embrace suffering with courage, and share love without conditions. These weren't just commands, they were lifelines. They gave meaning to every second I remained on this side of existence. When I was discharged weeks later, the world looked different. The sky wasn't just blue. It was alive. The laughter of a child in the street felt like music from heaven. Even the arguments, the frustrations of daily life seemed small against the backdrop of eternity. I realized how much time I had wasted chasing things that didn't matter. Ego, pride, success measured by titles or money. None of it could compare to the love I had felt beyond the veil. At first, I struggled to share my story. People either doubted me or dismissed it as a dream brought on by trauma. But deep down, I knew it was real. And the more I tried to keep it to myself, the heavier it became, as if the presence was gently nudging me. Tell them. Share my love. Eventually, I understood. I hadn't been sent back for comfort. I had been sent back for a mission. So I began small, smiling at strangers, listening more than speaking, helping without expecting anything in return. At first, it felt insignificant, like drops of water in a vast ocean. But over time, I saw the ripples. A kind word softened someone's anger. A small gesture lifted someone's despair. The love I had received wasn't meant to stay inside me. It was meant to flow through me, endlessly renewed, just like it had in the light. Of course, life didn't become easy. The pain from my injuries lingered. Some days were dark, heavy, filled with doubt. But even then, I remembered the lesson. Suffering can be lived with bitterness or with grace. I chose grace, not perfectly, not always, but as best I could. And every time I surrendered my struggles to love, they became lighter, not just for me, but for those around me. Friends began to notice the change. They said I seemed calmer, more present, as if I carried a secret. When I finally told them, I expected ridicule. Instead, I saw tears. I saw hope flicker in their eyes, and I realized this was the mission, not to convince anyone, not to argue or preach, but simply to share what I had seen, that love is real, that it is endless, and that it is waiting for all of us. Looking back, I see my accident not as a tragedy, but as a gift, a brutal, painful gift, but one that stripped away all illusions and left only truth. I had to die to learn how to truly live. And if there's one message I can give to anyone listening, it's this. You don't have to wait for the light to love more deeply. You can begin right now, in the smallest of ways. One day, when my journey here is truly over, I know where I'm going. I know what waits beyond the veil. But until then, I will keep walking, keep loving, keep sharing. Not because I'm perfect, not because I have all the answers, but because I have touched eternity and returned. And that changes everything. So if you're hearing this today, maybe it's not an accident. Maybe it's your reminder, as it was mine. Life is fragile, but love is eternal. And in the end, love is all that matters.